Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Business Access TV is here at the JSC Core Competencies to Excel as a Corporate Secretary. I'm your host, Andrew Laidley. Please stay with us.
I wish to welcome you to yet another workshop, Corporate Secretaries Workshop. As you know, we have these workshops each year, and the reason we continue to do so is that we feel that we should be at the cutting edge of any changes that is occurring in whether locally or globally. We feel that the workshops have been beneficial to us so far, and that with each day when we have these changes, we should continue to look at educating the persons in this industry. This morning and this workshop is very special, as we will be hosting, it is being hosted in association with the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. And as we move towards introducing the Corporate Governance Index, I think today is especially important so that we can see how this can be incorporated into what we do as company secretaries and others within the industry. It is especially important that we look at this to see how our companies will score higher in terms of corporate governance. Today is intended to be a very good workshop based on the persons who will be presenting. So I invite you to stay tuned, ask the relevant questions, and ensure that when we leave here, we can implement what we have learned.
The Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators is an institution that certifies secretaries, chartered secretaries, and I believe it is the only institution in the world that does that. It's incorporated by Royal Charter and has its base in England, London, England. And our dear leader, Simon Osborne, is the CEO of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries. In Jamaica, we have the Association of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators, which is a branch of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries. Today, we are very happy to be hosting this seminar with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and I hope that what we present today, you might find something to take away from it, because we are going to try to give you something practical that you can use in your everyday life.
Governance has to suit each jurisdiction. One size cannot fit all. Even within a peer group of companies engaged in similar activities, similar business, because the dynamic is going to be different, because the business conditions are going to be different, the governance framework will necessarily be different. And as you comply or explain, also within a peer group of companies doing the same, broadly the same activity, you will find that they comply in different ways. And that's the beauty of a code of principles. So what do we mean by governance? The Cadbury definition, the process by which an organization is directed or controlled. The other perceived virtue of corporate governance on the part of politicians and policymakers is that it leads to increased opportunities and choice for all. Now that's one of those wonderful glib expressions that rolls off the tongue of a politician. And it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But what on earth does it mean? As a political aspiration, it's great. Opportunities and choice for all. Hurrah, yeah, we'll all vote for that. But can we really expect corporate governance to deliver such an overtly political objective? I'll leave that one hanging in the air. Poor old Bob Diamond, he gets a bit of a caning over this one. he did actually say that corporate watching, he did actually say that. But I think it's a good reminder that, you know, there's no point trying to do one thing, say one thing and do another. That sort of hypocrisy, you'll get found out eventually. The truth will always out. Governance is concerned with the exercise of power, the role of directors, the responsibilities of shareholders, and how those are balanced. And it also deals with disclosure, transparency, accountability, internal control, and making sure you avoid that concentration of power in too few hands. Hence the desire, well, I mean, it's now become standard, certainly in the UK. America's finding it harder, but actually separating the roles of chairman and chief executive so that you achieve a more constructive tension at the top levels in the C-suite. What are some of the governance hot topics? Well, I don't know what it's like here, but remuneration in the UK never ceases to amaze me. I mean, and the way in which non-executive directors serving on remuneration committees aren't smelling the coffee, I just don't get it. But and the United States is just as bad. And what that is leading to is remuneration which is detached from performance, or levels of remuneration detached from performance, are just leading to increasing inequality of wealth. And I think that could lead to unfortunate consequences socially. And it's something that has to be tackled. Hot topic. Legal risk has risen up the scale of corporate risks. The whole board diversity thing. Gender is a major factor. But there is no doubt about it, board behaviour improves the more women join the board. And I know that from my own experience, funny enough, in a charity where I was deputy chair and I chaired the nomination committee. And I had to wield the knife. I removed 6 older male trustees, brought in 4 ladies, all of whom were younger. The average age came down. The speed with which business was transacted improved. Shorter board meetings, I'll drink to that, made a difference. Now that's one example, but I think there's no doubt about it that I think the presence of women in boardrooms adds beneficially to the decision-making process. You've got the whole responsible capitalism issue, the managing of stakeholders and accountability to wider stakeholders. And that, interestingly, has led to the appointment of a committee now for a code of governance for private companies. I think that's long overdue in the UK. When you think about some of the bigger private companies, and I'm sure you've got them here, if one of those collapses, the impact on the economy and on the government could be significant. And then the whole question of board evaluations. Following the financial crisis, ICSA did some work on boardroom behaviours, the conclusion of which were 4 uncomfortable truths. Well-run companies can make strategic and sometimes catastrophic misjudgments. Risk management not properly overseen, monitored or reviewed by the board. Often it was just left to the audit committee. It's a board responsibility, is oversight of risk. Remuneration and incentivization not aligned with shareholders' interests, and a failure to inform stakeholders, not just shareholders, stakeholders, sufficiently. That work we did identified 3 areas needing attention. Institutional. Are corporate governance policies and architecture fit for purpose? Has management installed adequate processes and systems? And are directors exhibiting appropriate behaviours? So we had there the institutional, the organisational, and the behavioural. Now, we identified in that work that good practice boardroom behaviour was characterised by those 9 features. So clear understanding of the board's role. The board is there to oversee the management of the business. The board is not there to manage the business. And non-executive directors forget it's a case of noses in, fingers out. They smell the state of the business, they don't finger it. Does this business pass the smell test? Once the non-executive directors start interfering in the management of the business, it's very hard to hold an executive to account. You can't. You've syndicated the responsibility and the liability. Appropriate deployment of knowledge, skills, experience and judgment. So what balance of those have you got on the board? Independent thinking. Assumptions and established orthodoxy need to be questioned. Challenge has to be constructive. If people come onto a board full of suspicion or just trying to show off what a tough guy I am, I'll show these executives up for a load of incompetent idiots. If that's the mentality which a non-executive has, they're asking for trouble, because it will just lead to tension, in fact conflict on the board. Non-executive directors have to be constructive friends of the management team. Can't overemphasize that. Constructive friends. Yes, and it's knowing how to challenge in a way which doesn't put people's backs up. And it requires a skill, emotional intelligence for a start. Yes, there has to be rigorous debate. The decision-making environment has to be supportive. There needs to be a shared vision. And for the chair, it's vital to close each item of business in a timely way, not let it go round and round and round ad nauseam. That's not the way to do it.
We go to a short break. More when we return.
Doggin Global Introduction. Doggin Global is an integrated multidisciplinary professional service firm. We are integrated as one firm and provide several professional services, including audit, accounting, tax, IT, risk, HR, performance, M&A, corporate recovery, and other advisory services. The firm is organized in several professional service units, which includes Doggin Auditors, Doggin Advisors, Doggin Legal, Doggin Finance, Doggin HR Solutions, Doggin Tech Solutions, Doggin Media, Doggin Corporate Secretarial. If you are interested in any of our services, please contact us for a free quote. Email info@doggin.global. Website doggin.global.
Welcome back to BATV's coverage of the JSE core competencies to excel as a corporate secretary.
We are now going to have a panel discussion, as you will see, and members of the local chapter will be participating, and Mrs. Henry Pottinger is going to be the moderator, and they're going to be talking about things that happen in a very practical way.
How rewarding is your job as a company secretary? Any tips that you can give to budding company secretaries, people who are waiting in the wings to take over your jobs? For me, I enjoy my job. I will not work anywhere else until I retire than with KPMG. As to rewarding, yes, it is rewarding in many respects. I like to see that the people who I work with, they are enabled, they are eloquent, they can answer questions from shareholders, they deal with matters like that with alacrity, and they're very responsive.
It's not glamorous in the sense that if the reward you're looking for is your name in lights, it's clearly the wrong profession for you. So I'm glad that Liz actually said the word enable, because you are an enabler. You're a facilitator. You know, we all understand, certainly after listening to Simon this morning, the importance of corporate governance. Well, all of that falls on your shoulders for you to administer. You pull it together. You keep all the moving pieces going in unison, and you don't, there will be no name in lights, certainly not where I operate for that. So if that's what you, but it can be, obviously it's very rewarding in other ways. just in terms of tips, I can't stress enough. Well, there are two main things I'll say. One is that just you have to have a high level of administrative capability, and and obviously you can't do it on your own. So whether it means an internal team or going for external support, you have to be extremely organized, and you have to make sure that you create a lot of systems which allow you to ensure that you comply with all the requirements that you have, which are numerous. Other than that, I can't stress enough the importance of what we keep calling soft skills, but they're not soft at all because they're critical for the role. Definitely, there's a high level of judgment and diplomacy and management of relationships of people which is involved. We talked a little bit earlier about the relationship the tension between management and the board, which can sometimes exist. And in that case, your role is critical because you really are the diplomat who has to kind of navigate those two relationships and those two different sets of roles within a company. So that I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you develop your relationships and that you manage personalities.
I recall some years ago I did a document for my chairman, and I went to him and I'm explaining to him what it is that I'm doing and what it is that he needs. He says to me, where I must sign. So it gives you that level of confidence and trust, and to ensure that what you're doing and what you're presenting is correct. And you must build up that whole self-integrity so that, it is not questioned. And I feel that if I have to take something to somebody and they ask me, so where is this or what is that? I do my own self-assessment, because when I do a document, it says where, what, when, why, who, and so forth. So I ask myself those questions so that, you can develop that trust when you're working with somebody.
The job is really very, very interesting. The things that come across your desk are amazing, dynamic, invigorating, challenging. Scope is very, very diverse. Corporate governance has really taken its hold, rather, on Jamaica and within the Caribbean. There is just so much that we have to learn and offer to our clients and to ourselves. Certainly, if someone is looking at this as a profession, I think corporate governance is the way to go. That's just me personally. You'll always assist and help your clients, but there's always a nuance on what has occurred, what should have been done, and how we're going to correct it. And that's what I love about it. And working with PwC and my team, we have just so much to do. And you've got to be very structured, lists, and more lists. You have to be very detail-oriented and be able to pick up, and very meticulous, and be able to pick up errors very easily.
In my role as a corporate secretary, the reward for me is I am constantly learning. Every day there is something that I didn't know, or something now that I have to go and know. And it is no 2 days are ever the same. Especially in our company, which we tend to be very entrepreneurial, the ideas come, and as a company secretary and as compliance, I have to research to say, can it be done? Can it not be done? Would this be in breach of anything? I would also advise that the regulators are good allies. From where I sit, I call them a lot because I need their guidance. They are more intimate with the laws and regulations and how they interpret what I am asking them to just bounce things off. So I would ask you to use them up. The company's office, the stock exchange, the Bank of Jamaica, the FSC, they're all very open to questions. No one has said no to me yet. Even if they don't know the answer, they'll research it and get back to us. And our real success lies in having a great team behind us, including KPMG.
Thank you.
And our team in DOMREP, Trinidad and Jamaica, that supports me, because we just could not do it alone.
Thanks a lot, ladies. I hope then that those of you in the audience found something informative, instructive, that you can take away from this panel discussion.
Coming up after the break, what companies need to know about the Corporate Governance Index.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
Hi, it's Novia MacDonald-White, Senior Associate Editor at the Jamaica Observer. And guess what? You are watching Business Access Television.
Welcome back to BATV's coverage of the JSE core competencies to excel as a corporate secretary.
So what is this corporate governance index that we have been talking about? And it really is a tool that has been developed to measure how all entities that are listed, at least surely for us listed on the stock exchange, how it conforms to various established corporate governance principles. Now, typically, the index has a numerical value, right, where the extremes of the values are overall good and poor. And also, it assists in improving the transparency and ultimately FDI for countries. Because research has shown that countries and surely listed companies, like using the stock exchanges that have a corporate governance index, especially when there's not very strong regulatory environment for them to operate within, the corporate governance index has actually helped to create greater investment opportunities. And what the research has shown is that countries with the indices have shown significant growth in corporate governance practices. So let's talk a little about the corporate governance index in Jamaica. And the index has been developed by the Jamaica Stock Exchange. As I indicated before, it's the first for the Caribbean region. The process that is being utilized is that it's going to be automatic, so that whether you're listed on the junior market or you're listed on the main market, you are going to be assessed using the index manual. So the purpose of the index, as stated by the Jamaica Stock Exchange, is to first of all periodically measure listed companies' conformance to required corporate governance principles and practices. It also should help to give companies an opportunity to differentiate themselves from other companies, because while all companies are listed and expected to be guided by certain principles and certain rules and certain legislations, you can differentiate yourself by the score that you probably will get based on the fact that you are adhering to a number of these principles. It will also provide a benchmark by which other parties, external parties, locally and internationally now, can gauge companies' adherence to corporate governance practices.
Every year, we have a workshop for the corporate secretary because we realize that they are an integral part of the corporate governance and effectiveness of publicly listed companies, whether it's on the junior exchange or the big board. And we were fortunate in that the head of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of the UK was coming on a visit to Jamaica to meet with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, because we are in the process of representing them in providing training and continuing development for corporate secretaries, persons who want to be corporate secretaries, and as a matter of fact, there is an upcoming fast track that's going to be available for attorneys and chartered accountants who invariably are performing the duties of the chartered secretary, and what it will allow them to do is to have the formal chartered secretary designation. So we felt that this was very important to continue to lift the profile of the chartered secretary and their role in listed companies.
I thought the conference was excellent, actually. The seminar was excellent. It touched on very important aspects that are critical for the development of our businesses within Jamaica and internationally, and for our companies, concentrating on corporate governance and the amendments that have just occurred in the Companies Act and why corporate governance is so important. So I encourage everyone to be at the next seminar.
The governance is here to stay. There's no doubt about that. And it's the proportionate application of governance principles which is so important in all types of organisation. But in order to be able to do that, every organisation needs to be clear about its organisational purpose. Then the board, the directors, need to be clear about the key values by which that purpose is going to be delivered. Only then can you devise a governance framework for your particular type of organisation. Every organisation, however big, however small, needs to do that.
Who does corporate governance benefit again?
Obviously, it benefits the companies themselves, it benefits their shareholders as the owners, or if it's an unincorporated body, the members. But it also benefits wider society. I think that's the important point. Their employees, those with whom they do business, and ultimately it benefits the government, because if an enterprise fails and is employing people and it fails because of poor governance practices, the ultimate responsibility financially was going to fall on the government, for example in social security payouts for unemployed people. I think also if companies fail because of poor governance, it doesn't reflect well on the country. And for a country that is trying to entice inward investment, if the governance framework isn't up to snuff, as we say, then that could have a potentially negative effect. So good governance, it just makes sense. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence too that good governance enhances reputation. It also, for organisations, particularly commercial ones, reduces the cost of capital. It just makes sense.
That's it from us here at the JSC Core Competencies to Excel as a Corporate Secretary. I've been your host, Andrew Laidley, and thanks for tuning in to Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Your weekly dose of information on nutrition, wellness, and fitness. Discover ways to nurture your mind, body, and spirit.
My name is Herbert Chung, Executive Chairman, Co-Founder, Honeybun 1982 Limited. You're watching Business Access TV. Serious about business.
By now, everyone should be aware that Jamaica has confirmed cases of the new coronavirus, COVID-19. The response now is containment. How to reduce the number of local transmission cases. That's the focus on today's show. We zoom in on the matter of quarantine and isolation. Plus, there's more information you need to know. So stay with us. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and this is Jamaica Magazine.
An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. How to wash your hands. Firstly, wet your hands. Then apply some soap. Rub your hands palm to palm. Lather the backs of your hands. Scrub between your fingers. Rub the backs of fingers on the opposing palms. Then clean your thumbs. Make sure to wash your fingernails and fingertips. Rinse your hands. Then dry with a single-use towel. Use this towel to turn off the faucet. And now your hands are clean. When to wash your hands? After coughing or sneezing, after taking public transportation, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare and eat food, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, after handling animals or animal waste. An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, March 17. Government has intensified its COVID-19 containment response to limit unnecessary and non-essential movement of persons. During a press briefing at Jamaica House yesterday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that the new measures would take effect on March 18. Among them, travelers to Jamaica from countries where there is local spread of COVID-19 will have to self-quarantine for 14 days. Non-essential public and private sector employees are to be allowed to work from home for 7 days. Hospital visits are being restricted to 1 visit per day and 1 person per patient, while outpatient clinics in hospitals are to be scaled down. The Prime Minister has also announced that no more than 20 persons are allowed to congregate in public spaces, which includes funerals and weddings, where he's urging should be limited to close family members.
But we still recommend that you do not gather at all in public places. And if you gather, you will maintain the required 3 to 4 feet distance from each other. The reason why we're promulgating these measures under law is that the Constable of Police is now empowered by law to take action if it is observed that there is a gathering in excess of 20 persons.
To further facilitate social distancing, bars, nightclubs, and other areas of entertainment have been ordered closed. Markets are to operate from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., while supermarkets, corner shops, restaurants, and cook shops recently interacted with those confirmed to have the virus. A batch of 21 specialist nurses from Cuba will arrive on the island on March 24 to boost the capacity of Jamaica's health system to deal with COVID-19. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the development follows discussions with the Cuban government.
We made a special appeal given the challenges. We're trying to get about 100 additional specialist nurses in the system, focusing primarily on high-intensity units or ICU units.
Retired nurses are also being sought to help boost personnel in public health. The National Solid Waste Management Authority NSWMA is reporting that necessary measures have been implemented to ensure garbage collection services continue during this period of COVID-19 response. Executive Director Audley Gordon says sanitation workers have been trained and equipped to protect themselves and those they serve. While the authority and its regional bodies will maintain their regular shifts to ensure solid waste is collected, the NSWMA is calling on citizens to take certain precautionary measures to help contain the spread of the virus. These include securing household garbage by properly bagging, tying and placing them in containers for collection, and double bagging garbage that contains tissue, gloves, face masks, and diapers. Householders are also asked to place storage receptacles at the front of their premises where they can be accessed without hindrance 24 hours a day. Persons with uncollected garbage are encouraged to contact the agency. Call toll-free at 888-CLEAN-JA. That's 888-253-2652. WhatsApp 876-448-3220. Email nswma@nswma.gov.jm. Persons can also visit the NSWMA website, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, is putting additional measures in place to sanitize its units to help protect passengers from the spread of COVID-19. The state-owned bus company has implemented a schedule for disinfecting buses, depots, and major hubs. Alcohol and hand sanitizer dispensers are being placed at entrances and exits across the JUTC's operations. Corporate Communications Manager Cecil Toms says cleaning crews have been dispatched to the North Parade and Halfway Tree Transport Center bus terminals to clean the buses after each cycle trip. This is in addition to cleaning that will take place at respective depots. The JUTC has also established a command center that will monitor the impact of the virus on commuters and staff. And finally, the justice system is also responding to the COVID-19 spread with all in-chamber hearings for the Court of Appeal to be done via telephone. Open court matters for the Court of Appeal will proceed as scheduled, but only persons slated to attend will be allowed inside the building.
And the Registrar of the Court of Appeal will make contact with the relevant attorneys and work through the logistics to facilitate that. That is specific to the Court of Appeal.
Ms. Fletcher says discussions are also underway with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Department of Correctional Services to facilitate bail and case management hearings electronically. Meanwhile, persons going to court are being asked to take their own pens to sign documents and to sanitize their hands before entering the court building and courtrooms. Sanitizers will be provided at the courts to facilitate this. And that's it for JI's News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Up next, a roundup of activities by Prime Minister Andrew Holness during the past week.
Prime Minister declares Jamaica national disaster area, launches $10.6 million Spotlight initiative, and urges citizens to take personal responsibility in dealing with COVID-19. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Anthony Morgan. At the start of the work week, Prime Minister Holness launched a national program to tackle family violence. Dubbed the Spotlight Initiative, the 3-year program is jointly funded by the European Union and United Nations. It targets 5 parishes: Westmoreland, Clarendon, St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew. Mr. Holness says the Spotlight Initiative focuses on ending child sexual abuse, intimate partner violence and discrimination against vulnerable groups. While the program will prioritize violence against women and girls, it will also address toxic masculinity, which the Prime Minister says is pervasive on the island.
It will contribute to transforming our society into one where women and girls can thrive, free of any kind of violence towards them. It will focus on addressing the issue of normalization of violence in Jamaica and encourage society to see family violence as a public issue requiring consistent and concerted effort to address.
The Prime Minister used Monday's Spotlight Initiative launch to call for the safe return of 22-year-old Jasmine Dean. Dean, who is visually impaired, has been missing since February 27.
I am personally hurt by this. To think that something terrible could have befallen her, and we pray to God that that is not the case. We hope that some mercy could reach the hearts of those who have her in their captive, if that is the case, to release her. The entire Jamaica is praying for her safe return.
The University of the West Indies Mona campus student was last seen in Papine St. Andrew, dressed in blue jeans and white blouse. Dean is of brown complexion, slim build, and about 4 feet 6 inches tall. Anyone knowing of her whereabouts is being asked to contact 119 or the nearest police station. By Monday evening, the Prime Minister urged Jamaicans to stop the practice of panic buying in the wake of coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19 being declared a pandemic. He said he's been assured that there's adequate goods on the island to ensure there's a constant supply of necessary items at grocery stores.
So I know that you will be hearing the message that you should be forward planning and anticipating and ensuring that you are pre-positioning and having the necessary supplies in reach of the island, should in case the situation escalates to the point where we would need to have such provisions made.
Mr. Holness was celebrating Progressive Grocer's 20th anniversary at a banquet Monday. In the wake of Tuesday's confirmation of the island's first imported case of COVID-19, Prime Minister Andrew Holness reassured the country that all the necessary precautions were being taken to contain the spread of the disease. During Tuesday's statement, Mr. Holness said the government had suspended all non-essential travel and schools' participation in the pen relays were cancelled. He said information would flow directly to the leader of the opposition, where a parliamentary committee would be created to update parliamentarians. While expressing confidence in the island's medical professionals and the public health system, the Prime Minister said,
"There is no need for panic, hysteria, fear-mongering, or spreading misinformation. This will only detract from the efforts of the government and redirect time and precious resources to correcting false information and resolving unnecessary disputes. I give you my assurance that the government will provide accurate and verified information in a timely manner on all pertinent matters relating to COVID-19.
And in Parliament Tuesday, the Prime Minister told the House of Representatives that the Ministry of Health and Wellness had adequate supplies to contain the spread of the coronavirus. According to Mr. Holness, the Health Ministry has enough testing kits, medicine, gloves, masks, gowns and hazmat suits to last for a significant period.
I am confident that all the protocols that have been announced, protocols for restriction on travel, protocols for testing for temperatures, for cruise ships that are coming and at our airports, the quarantine protocols, the isolation protocols, all of those are being followed.
By Wednesday, Jamaica recorded its second case of COVID-19 which prompted the government to ban public gatherings for the next 14 days. Permits previously granted would also be revoked.
However, that is just a part of the problem. There are still private entities, businesses that are having meetings, weddings and funerals and Sunday morning church service. We're asking the public, and this is where responsibility comes in, personal responsibility. In these gatherings and events, we ask that you follow the protocols that have been established for personal care and hygiene. As of tomorrow, schools will be officially closed for a period of 14 days. We will review this decision after 10 days.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness speaking at a March 12 press briefing. He said parents and school administrators would partner to ensure learning would continue online and through other means from home. By Friday morning, 6 new coronavirus 2019 cases were confirmed, 2 of which were as a result of local spread. At a press conference Friday evening, the Prime Minister declared Jamaica a disaster area under the 2015 Disaster Risk Management Act, the Emergency Powers Act, and the Public Health Act. Under those powers, the 7 and 8 miles communities of Bull Bay in St. Andrew were placed under quarantine. With the designation, the police is allowed to enter premises without a warrant, and a health officer is empowered to declare a person a prohibited immigrant. In the meantime, a travel restriction was placed on persons coming from the United Kingdom. 21 Cuban specialist nurses are set to arrive in Jamaica on March 24 to assist health workers, and retired health workers are being contacted to help. Access to Golden Age homes and infirmaries will be restricted. A water trucking schedule has been created to give more Jamaicans access within and outside of utility areas. And the Prime Minister revealed that a call center had been established for both reporting and getting information on the COVID-19. In addition to 8881-LOVE, persons are being asked to call 888-754-7792, 876-542-5998, 876-542-6007, and 876-542-6006. Emails may also be sent to covid19@moh.gov.jm or jacovid19facts@gmail.com.
I urge you, ignore the fake news. Stop circulating the nonsense that is being put sometimes out there. Use your own sense of proper context. So at this stage, you can rest assured that this government is going to communicate with you. We are going to use all channels to provide you with correct, legitimate, accurate information and timely information, no matter what hour of the night.
And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us again next time for more of the news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Protect yourself from the flu virus. Visit your nearest health center or doctor to get the flu vaccine. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing. Wash your hands regularly with water or by using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid the spread of germs by not touching your eyes, mouth, or nose. And be sure to regularly disinfect surfaces and objects that are used often. Remember, your health is your responsibility.
With loads of information circulating about COVID-19, here's information you can trust. What is quarantine? Quarantine separates and restricts the movement of people who were exposed to a contagious disease, in this case, COVID-19, to see if they become sick. Quarantine should last 14 days. This is to ensure the person has not contracted an infectious disease. What is isolation? Isolation separates people who are showing signs of illness from those who are not. This is to prevent the spread of an infectious disease and lasts as long as the signs present themselves. What is social distancing? Social distancing keeps people from interacting closely or frequently enough to spread an infectious disease. Schools and other places where large gatherings are hosted may close. Sports, social events, funerals, and religious services may be cancelled. Persons must maintain at least 1 meter, a 3 feet distance between themselves and anyone else, especially if they are coughing or sneezing.
I was first diagnosed with cervical cancer at the age 33. The treatment was not pretty. It was terrible. I couldn't go to work, and I spent the whole 5 years out of work. The pain, the struggle, I removed my womb. I thought, I'm finished with cancer. 2016, cancer come back. There's hope for your daughter. My experience don't have to be her experience. So mothers, give your children the vaccine. It will be good for your sake and for the children's sake.
Don't wait. Vaccinate against cervical cancer. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Just recently, there was the second staging of the Jamaica Rum Festival, which pulled thousands of patrons delving into the culture of rum. Take a look at the highlights.
And we're here at the 2020 Jamaica Rum Festival.
So festivals are a big part of what brings people to a destination. A number of other festivals are happening, but Jamaica is known as a rum destination from way back. As you recall, long before sugar became as strong, rum was. And so Jamaica has been able to make a statement in that. And so we want to use it and we want to celebrate it. People travel for unique experiences. And the culture of a country is that defining feature of it. What's different creates what we call the specificity of a people. It is what really identifies you. And so Jamaica is celebrating its identity with these festivals. And I think that the world comes to see you as you are. I saw, in fact, how ubiquitous rum really is. And the fact that so many of the Jamaican foods can be infused into the rum mix to give you a presentation that is not just tasty, but has that kick. So we see that thyme was infused in the rum mix. That we saw that mint was, that apple and OTT apple and so on. So all the Jamaican fruits, we saw that they could be infused in it, including also some of the food stuff that Jamaicans actually eat that normally we regard as things to eat.
I like the fact that it shows off how you can incorporate rum into different things, and the fact that it's not just only about rum, but it also showcases our Jamaican artistry, whether it's through crafts or fashion. We see a lot of fashion, we see a lot of bags and slippers and other things like that. Of course, the culinary side of things and the rum side of things, we can't leave that out. So I really, really like that. So for persons who aren't here, you know, you're missing out on that. It's very educational and it is fun. It's edutaining.
What I am doing here at Rumfest today is sampling of sugarcane product. Sugarcane product which is coming all the way from the days of slavery. I'm thinking about wet sugar, tambourine and sugar, roots wine, sugarcane juice, and other product from sugarcane. Now all these products have been coming from sugarcane, but we have some very special product here today, which many of you don't know of, which is a tambourine and wet sugar syrup. The wet sugar syrup and tambourine, that is a total body cleanser, and it's one of the best for constipation. We have another one which is a roots wine. The roots wine is made of cane juice, sarsaparilla, rosemary, strongback, Guinean weed, and neem. That one end up to be one of the best prostate cleanser.
I am impressed. Very high production value, shedding light on some rum producers I really didn't know much about. There are a lot more premium rum offerings in Jamaica. I think it's very much the brand Jamaica. People are playing dominoes, people are drinking rum, buying cues. It's very much part of the Jamaican party experience ethos.
I'm here for the fun. So I'm just here to enjoy myself. I was here last year and I had a really great time. I decided this year I have to come.
The food, because you know we have a wide variety of food, so you can get jerk chicken here, we have pork, we have a wide variety of stuff that is in sync with us as our tradition. So it is a very good event. And then of course rum. How can we forget that? Rum, when you say rum, you say Jamaica. So it's a very good event, and this is a platform that we can use to highlight what Jamaica is all about for tourists to see, what the vibes, the food, the fellowship, and you name it.
The cane juice is also very good. I've had it. It's natural. Everybody wants to come to Jamaica. And so when you have a festival of this nature that you can, people from all over the world can attend, and they are introduced to the various products that Jamaica has to offer. I mean, it goes well for tourism or economic development. So it's a good thing. It's my first time, but certainly I'll be back next year. I want next year for Jamaica to have 2 rum festivals, one in Kingston and one in Montego Bay.
We've come to the end of the show, but only for today. Do catch us again tomorrow right here on the station. Another half hour of informative features await you. Until then, please send your feedback to jamaicamagazine@gis.gov.jn. You may also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. There you will find credible information on the government's response to containing the spread of the novel coronavirus of the island and so much more. On behalf of the entire team here at GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Hey guys, I'm Candy and welcome to Chill Spot, Jamaica's ultimate leisure show. This season promises to reveal some of the hidden treasures of the lifestyle industry by taking you to the chill spots of some of Jamaica's most brilliant business minds, giving you a glimpse into how they choose to unwind and just pull a vibe. You won't want to miss what happens next. Stay tuned.
I started out selling out of the trunk of my car.
If everybody think the same way, everybody going in the same line.
Being an entrepreneur takes everything that you've got.
Weekends? What's weekends? We work on a weekend.
There are real opportunities everywhere you look.
But you have to have the passion.
If I do my part well, then everything is a play.
We believed in ourselves and our families believed in us.
Being convinced of this great opportunity, why we are all here doing what we're doing now.
Watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV. Serious.
Serious about business.
Business Access TV comes to you from the Jamaica Pegasus in New Kingston for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar focusing on the theme, Achieving Growth, Sustaining Viability. I am Tamara McHale. We'll have more in just a moment. We're We're here having a quick chat with Mr. Sixto Coy, and he's, of course, the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica. We're just trying to get a bit of background on the importance of this organization. Mr. Coy, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us, how long has this organization been around and how important is the IACJ?
The ICAJ has been around for over 50 years. Its mandate is to control the operations of chartered accountants in Jamaica. For you to be a practicing member to sign off on financial statements, you have to be a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica. That's a requirement by law. So all auditors that sign financial statements have to be a member of the Institute. Apart from that, we do provide a lot of training for our members. Continued professional development is key, and chartered accountants, as you know, hold a lot of responsible positions in the country, so training is required. So the Institute does play its part. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica, I welcome you to the 2019 Business Seminar. The theme, Achieving Growth, Sustaining Viability, is based on the premise that rapid and constant change in the global business environment demand our attention. We at ICAJ therefore felt it necessary to expose participants to current business trends. Today's business seminar features several dynamic speakers and panelists from various backgrounds. The presentations and discussions will cover critical issues that affect business and society. The topics have been carefully selected to make you aware of potential risks and the impacts these may have on your business and the corporate environment. Let us play our part in creating new avenues for Jamaica to achieve growth and sustain viability as we take our rightful place in the global economy.
Today, we have amongst us our keynote speaker, Mr. William Mahfood, Jamaica's business guru. Mr. William Mahfood is chairman of the Wisynco Group. His career began as a warehouse supervisor at Wisynco Trading, working for the family, learning the ethics of hard work. This followed with an exceptional 20-year stint as the company's managing director, then the appointment as chairman of the Wisynco Group in 2014. Beyond Wisynco, the former PSOJ president is passionate about building a stronger Jamaica. He has served on teams in support of national interest and community upliftment. Here to give us his reflections on Jamaica's business environment and strategies to achieve growth is Mr. William Mahfood. Please make him welcome.
I really do feel very, very honored to be here. I was, in the ride coming up in the elevator with a young lady who is an accountant, of course. And I said, I think accountants have the best sense of humor, so I'm going to try as much as possible to keep you engaged. Today, I'm going to speak a little bit about how, in the environment that we're in, how Wisynco achieves growth sustainably. And that is really, I think, the key to the presentation. I want you to really contemplate for a minute, what does real growth look like? Well, if you looked at some of the top companies in the United States that have grown really crazy in the last 10 years, companies that some of them didn't even exist 10 years ago. And one of the most important common threads that I've noticed, and this is what I really want to focus on, is how they treat people. So for me, as an executive over the years, I have also really focused on that. So one of the key messages that I want to try and get across today is that companies, countries, industries, it doesn't matter what you want to look at, it's 100% going to achieve sustainable growth through the development and the treatment and the impact on their people. Our mission statement is to improve the lives of our people And so you ask yourself, well, how do we do that? So I'm going to speak a little bit about how we engage with the people in our organization, how we continue to improve the lives of our people. And I want to focus on, one is on the area of remuneration, the other is on the area of engagement, and the most important is on the area of development. Looking at the Wisynco team, today we have just over 2,500 direct employees at Wisynco. In our affiliated companies, and we now have a number of affiliated companies, the total Wisynco affiliated employees is close to 5,000. And one of the things that we focus on in terms of, on the remuneration side, Wisynco, we realize that in the current environment, there is a lot at the lower level of the team members, there was a lot of movement of people. With them unemployment coming down at the levels it currently is, what we saw and what we realized was we were losing a lot of people who were on the line staff. We see it in the restaurant business, and we see it also in our warehouse and manufacturing. So we looked at it, and in July of this year, we gave a 25% salary increase to every single employee at the lower level of our teams. I'm not going to stand up here and profess that we have the best salaries in the industry, but what we have done is we have also looked at other ways to improve performance through incentive. So we have put in place a number of other additional measures for remuneration. Our entire line staff now in like the warehouse and distribution also get a performance-based incentive. Wisynco also has probably one of the most, I would say, dynamic profit share schemes in the country. 15% of the company's net profit after tax is paid out in profit share to our entire team. So almost $500 million last year was paid out to our entire team members as profit share. We realized that there was even more ways to get better performance, better engagement from our employees. In this year, we're going to be changing it to, rather than paying it out once per year, we're going to pay it out quarterly. Never, ever regret paying people for performance. And that is the most important message as far as compensation. In terms of Wisynco, the performance basically speaks for itself. I think if you consider, the other side of the equation where the people are concerned is really development. So over the last few years, the challenge that I've come across personally, and I've asked our entire team to look at, is how do we develop future leaders in the organization for continuity, sustainability in the organization's development and growth. Our last quarter revenue grew 36%. Now, that is not a small task. So in all areas of the organization, we are seeing tremendous need, tremendous demand, and that is now manifested itself in our leaders, in our team, in the ability for us to continue to grow and sustain that growth through development of the people. We've put in 2 or 3 areas of development. So one of the areas, we have a program called LEAD. I should know what it stands for, but I apologize. It is basically looking at, within the organization, all of the top talent and bringing them in on an ongoing basis for building their capabilities to be able to put them through the organization in more senior leadership roles. And it is one of the most important programs that we have started in the last few years. So that is on the people side. Then you have the customers. And we always say, well, our customers are our most important constituents. Well, the reality is the people internally are actually the most important constituents. Now, if I speak to a customer, I wouldn't tell them that. I'm going to tell them that they are the most important. The reality is, if your team members are not happy and satisfied, they will portray an image to your customers that is extremely negative. So if you want happy customers, make sure you have happy team members. So all of this basically is manifested itself at Wisynco in 36% revenue growth in the last quarter. And for those shareholders of you who are here, clap yourselves. And I continuously push the team to do better. 52% growth in net profit before tax for the last quarter. I actually anticipate that within 2 years, I think it's possible, Wisynco can double its revenues. After all of that, what have we achieved? Well, I mean, Wisynco now has, in the last 7 or 8 years, 14% compounded annual growth rate. A return on shareholder equity of upwards of 26%. In the last quarter, our return on equity was 39%. Who did it? Well, it's not me. The truth is I had very, very little to do with it. It's a team. And that is really what I think the clear message is today. What makes countries achieve growth sustainably are the people. That's the key message that I want to get across.
Cash flow and budgeting analysis. A business can be profitable and still run into trouble due to cash flow issues. We can forecast and evaluate your company's financial condition, estimate financing requirements, and track cash flow sources and uses. For more information and to discuss your requirements with one of our experts, please contact us today. Email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
I want to talk quickly now on the other side of what the company has accomplished. I don't have to tell you about, unfortunately, this podium is not flat, so I couldn't put my bottle of water, the finest water from under the earth, on the podium. Thank you very much. But as all of you know, if you ever see me in public, I always have a bottle with me. That is delicious. But I want to talk about innovation, because the reality is one of the key sort of tenets of our success has been innovation. Innovating products, innovating business opportunities, innovating the way that we go to market, innovating our distribution. And if you look at, I'm going to give you a quick story about water, as we say. The brand itself is only 17 years old. We started in 2002, and many of you might have heard the story, but basically, we could not get people to buy bottled water on the street. It was something that we had a big challenge. It was only available in certain areas. So the key for us to grow the business was look at the distribution and create opportunities for consumers to get bottled water at any location where other beverages were sold. And so we came up with a concept at the time to put bigger soft drinks put 6 bottles free in a case of bigger soft drinks, giving it to the smaller outlets, and that's how bottled water eventually became available. The rest is history. I mean, today it is the #1 beverage by far in the country of any brand, of any type of beverage, whether alcoholic or otherwise. And we have had tremendous spin-offs. So if you look at Cran Water, for example, the product that is now a huge, huge brand. It is the 2nd largest beverage brand in the country, and it is now spinning off sparkling. We have melon flavor. We have different sizes and formats. So our team is continuing to innovate, and that is one of the core sort of abilities for us as a company to keep growing sustainably. while we have gotten big, my biggest fear has always been to become, slow. So we always, we constantly speak about at our executive sessions, how do we remain agile? How do we continue to transform? And we do transform. People who have worked in Wisynco know that we go through constant change in terms of our sales structure, our route to market, how we engage with customers, even in how we engage with the people. Because people's needs change, the team members have growing concerns about areas that they always are going to be changing. We always look at ways to continue to improve and reinvent ourselves. That has been one of the cornerstones of success as well. And then finally, we continue to invest in Jamaica. We're very, very committed. Today, Wisynco, through its affiliated companies, Worthy Park and Tradewinds, is the largest agro-processing company in Jamaica. So we're not only investing in distribution, but we're, as shareholders, we're investing in agriculture. When everybody is running to leave sugar, Wisynco is heading into sugar. A lot of people actually would think we must be crazy, but the truth is that Jamaica has a cornerstone of sugar production, and I think that we must continue with it. Similarly, in the agro-processing juices, we're one of the few companies that have, for consumers now, you can get 100% juice, you can get 30% juice, you can get water, soft drinks. We have the full gamut of beverage offerings for every consumer, and that is really speaking to what our consumers need. So all in all, we're continuing to invest in Jamaica, continue to invest in our people, and I hope that many of you who are participating as shareholders continue to be pleased with our results, and I thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions. Thank you very much.
What a riveting presentation there. Tell us, why was it important for you to focus on that topic of achieving growth and, ensuring sustainability, viability?
So, Tamara, thank you. Thank you for having me. One of the things that we have come to the appreciation in our economy here in Jamaica is that growth is one of the most riveting, sort of demanding factors for the economy. And with the eventual turnaround in our economy over the last 5 years, a lot of initiatives that have been put in place are driven towards that growth. So Wisynco as a company has had a record of growth, 14% compounded annual growth for the last 8 or 10 years. And with all of the initiatives that we have put in as a company, we have continued to see that growth and the expansion. This past quarter, our financial quarter ended September. We had probably one of the best quarters in the company's history. And all of these factors motivated by and driven by our people. And this is why I focused on that in my presentation.
Okay, and for those who may have missed some parts of it, what are some of the critical points, or what are the 2 major points you would actually want persons to leave with from your presentation today?
Okay, so the first is the people are at the center of everything that we do. And how they have been the drivers of that growth, and secondly is ensuring that we have the right environment, and the environment in terms of our consumers, their health, looking out for things like recycling initiatives and the environmental impact that we have as a company, and how we continue to focus on those areas.
Okay. And just recently, Jamaica was again lauded for being the best performing stock market in the world. What do you think, is the reason for this?
Well, when you have, companies, and not to blow our own horn, but when you have companies like Wisynco that come to the market and less than 2 years, 300% increase, those kind of moves help. I think combination of that, the factors in terms of lower interest rates, there's more access to capital. All of those factors are impacting positively on the stock exchange.
When we return, we look at how the trends in technology are affecting consumer behavior. Stay with us.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
Welcome back to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar, focusing on the theme Achieving Growth, Sustaining Viability. More informative conversations coming up.
You've asked us to address the topic of trends in technology affecting consumer behavior. And I take it that your interest is not so much in the consumers themselves, but what their behavior means for your business and its growth and sustainability. And in your blurb, you mentioned talking a little bit about the impact of the mobile phone and the internet, which perhaps are the most visible manifestations of the drivers that are currently impacting how technology affects people's behavior. But most of you who are of the same vintage as I am would appreciate that the mobile phone and the internet have been around for the better part of 25 years. I had my first mobile phone when I was working with the Jamaica Telephone Company, and I date myself, right? Because the name Jamaica Telephone Company is about 4 generations back. We've gone through Telecoms of Jamaica, Cable and Wireless, Lime, Flow, so I'm probably dating myself. But I had my first mobile phone in 1996. And I used to pack it up, put it in the car. It was in like a little suitcase. And that was my mobile phone then. So mobile phones have been around for a long time. The internet has been around well before early 90s and the web around then. So these are not new phenomena. So what we perceive, what we sense in terms of the things that are driving the behavior of consumers is a more recent issue. And so perhaps the mobile phone and the internet are not the primary drivers. Perhaps they are just key components, nevertheless, in a larger ecosystem that's driving this paradigmic shift. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit. Social media is a far greater influencer on people's awareness, the information they consume, and their buying choices than any other form of traditional media or communication channels. People's attention span and their bandwidth for communications is 7 seconds. So the goldfish is now ahead of us in terms of attention to detail. And 128 characters. Well, Twitter is now 200 and something, right? You can thank the president to the north for that. And the mobile phone is of greater value to people than toothbrushes or sex. So that is the consumer that we're dealing with today. So this is far more fundamental than the internet or the mobile phone. Those are quite important components of this emerging digital ecosystem. But there are a set of fundamental rules that we need to understand as businesses, as professionals, to really begin to strategize for how we deal with this transformation. First of all, there are a set of rules that drive the digital economy. Moore's law, every 18 months, processing power holds constant, cost is constant, processing power doubles. So this mobile phone that I have in my pocket right now is more powerful than the mainframe computers that I was running, and I was working with Alcan maybe 20, 30 years ago. They're more powerful than those mainframes, right? So it means that processing power is growing rapidly. Technology gets relentlessly faster, smaller, cheaper. And every year you can buy for the same price twice what you bought last year. There's no other commodity that exhibits that behavior besides technology. Metcalfe's law, the usefulness of a network equals the square of the number of users. One fax machine is useless, right? Yeah? 2 fax machines, okay, I can communicate with one person. A network of fax machines, all of a sudden the utility increases exponentially. And that's the effects of the internet, right? So we call network externalities, network effects. And the third law, Gilder's law, the amount of globally available bandwidth grows at least 3 times faster than computer power. So as fast as computer power is growing, bandwidth is growing 3 times as fast, which means that the network becomes the computer. Cloud computing and desktop computing will soon be a thing of the past. Nowadays, when my son communicates with me, he does it in Google Docs, not on Microsoft Office, which is premises-based. And because I'm old school and I like to download it to our website and then do stuff, he says, "What are you doing? That's so inefficient." Right? So the network becomes the processing platform. And these are significant laws that drive a set of disruptive technologies. So cloud computing, don't think of cloud computing as a business. Don't think of cloud computing as just an alternative, cheaper form of computing. Think of it as a way of driving business agility. Data is a new oil in this environment. So data is not anymore stuff that we collect from people by asking them questions. It is exhaust. It emerges as a result of commerce, social interactions, Internet of Things, or use of the mobile phones. And it is the primary pillar for the digital economy. And that drives, in organizations, artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, and I think you hear a little bit more about that later. And then there's social media, the digital channels of engagement. This is where public sentiment, opinions, and consensus is shaped and influenced, and you ignore it at your peril. Just ask the people who participated in the last elections in North America, right? Social media was a big influencer. So when we think about technology and the trends and the influences, these are the things that drive those activities. And Google is just everywhere. They know everything. My colleagues there know how much I travel. Whenever Google each year tells me, here are the 20 countries you've visited, and here are all the locations you've been, and here's where you've gone, that's disturbing. Do I switch it off? No, because of the convenience of it. So the question is, in this environment, in this emerging environment, and these influences that are driving consumer behavior, very sophisticated technologies, right? Who is what my colleague Evan Duggan likes to speak about, the leader of reckon? Who needs to manage this? Who needs to make the decisions about how we embrace these technologies? So digital technologies and information technology are business assets, business resources. This is not a technology play. And this is a leadership imperative, right? So responding to these trends, and they're not trends anymore, they are here. It's useless talking about the coming digital or the emerging digital economy. The only thing that is emerging is the choices we make about how to embrace it and how to be ready for it and how to compete in it and how to excel in it.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
How many of you would have turned back this morning if you had left home and realized that you didn't have your phone? Right. So Dr. McNaughton spoke to the big phone that he had to bulk around and stuff, and maybe 15, 20 years ago we may have left the phone at home, maybe. But we're not doing it today. And even if we leave and go about our day, we're turning back at some point. We're going back at lunchtime to get the phone or something of the sort, right? The internet has impacted our lives. It has changed how it is that we engage. Mobile phones have made it easier to access the internet. It has made it easier for us to stay connected. It has allowed us as consumers to maximize the value. The phones have allowed us as consumers to maximize that value of the internet. Being able to shop, being able to communicate, being able to access information. In Jamaica, we have fairly good cell service. We have fairly good coverage most of the places, except right now we have some issues, but talk to Flo and Digicel about that. In January, HubSpot said that we had more mobile subscriptions. We had more active mobile phones in circulation than we had people in Jamaica. So that's everybody who have 2 phones on the desk there. We know about pharmacies accepting prescriptions via WhatsApp now. We know about PriceMart and Fontana having e-commerce websites that we can order our things. In the case of PriceMart, we can actually get our stuff delivered to us. Mailpack Local has a feature where we can order from supermarkets, pharmacies, and PriceMart, and they deliver the stuff to us. The proliferation of internet-connected devices has invoked a large-scale change in how we want to be engaged. We are consumers, right? IoT devices are becoming commonplace in our home and in our lives. Sometimes we don't even realize it. We don't realize how much we have become dependent on it. We think that we're protecting ourselves. We think that we, keeping the smart speakers away from the house so that they don't listen to us, but the phone listening to us and Google know everything. I accepted a long time ago that Google is just a part of my life. I'm gonna embrace it. Big Brother's gonna know everything. It's just how it is, and you know what? I'll take the convenience. I don't have anything to hide yet. But that's us on a personal level. But as a business, how does that affect what we do? As businesses, one of the big things that that the internet and these devices have disrupted for us is the way that we manage payment, the way that we collect or exchange or trade our commodities, our services. Our products are our value. That's how that's our representation of, this is what I have for you, this is what would benefit you, now give me some money for it. That disruption has caused businesses to have to be a little bit more flexible. We see things like, mobile money is not new. Moving money that way is not new. But it's growing as a payment option here in Jamaica. There's ATMs, there's a lot of point-of-sale systems. There is the whole gamut of different credit cards and debit cards. Visa and MasterCard are here. They are direct partners with the banks. They are direct partners with people like us, like MC Systems. You have things like the JUTC Smarter Card. JUTC says, I don't want no more paper in my bus. This is a way that I'm safeguarding my business. It's a way that I'm ensuring that I collect for the trip that you have come on the bus to do. No, it's not all wonderful. There are some challenges. There are some challenges in how it is that we manage this ecosystem. And those challenges come at a cost, a large cost sometimes. This ease of movement in money and this ease of movement in commodities, of goods and services, this borderless market has caused some, it has opened up trade. It has also opened up ability for fraudsters to do what they do best. And we see that happening in ATM skimming. You can take out they find ways to put devices in the card readers. Now we do things to combat that. We've changed out how it is that those card readers operate. We've changed the orientation so that the cards do not go in directly so you can't read the entire mag stripe. We have issues like terminal cloning. So your POS, your Verifone terminals, what happens is because of this openness of the market, they can go online and buy these cloned or knockoff terminals and conduct transactions, unfortunately. We do our best to manage it. We try to make sure that they don't get away from us, as we would say, in the market. This mobile money, this ease of movement, this electronic payment has also allowed scamming. We know about scamming. We know about a lot of scamming. We know about the card fraud. We know about it all. We can't allow it to stop us from doing business. We just have to be vigilant. We have to do what we can do to safeguard ourselves. Try not to use your credit cards on these websites that are not verified. You try to make sure that you don't show your PIN carelessly. Pay attention when you're using an ATM to the state of the ATM, state of the hardware. Make sure it's not shaky, that kind of thing. Micro businesses have the ability to they have lower fees because they have things like the mobile POSs that have allowed them to get a card machine at a lower cost than a traditional card machine. I have personally deployed point-of-sale machines in our fruits market. The internet and mobile technology has affected how and what we buy. It has fueled Jamaica's business economy greatly. Businesses must adjust strategy and introduce digital channels to engage customers, remain viable, and grow. Digital technology has changed everything.
So, no doubt, technology has empowered the consumer. We now have choices. It's no longer limited by location, but as we say, it's borderless. Are we there? How far are we from being globally competitive in a real way to take advantage of all the opportunities?
We have a long way to go. I think many of our businesses don't, and for the moment we have the luxury of not having to be urgent about it because to a large extent the broader ecosystem has not evolved as it should. But we did some surveys last year of the leadership of many organizations. Many people recognize the importance of digital transformation, but also most organizations and most leaders confess that we have not really thought about what our strategy is or should be. And you have to look broadly across the ecosystem. I mean, our consumers, fortunately for most of our businesses, have not themselves yet made the transformation. Just ask the mobile payments providers who rolled out GKM Pay, the credit union, Quisk. Consumers have still not embraced digital means of payment to a large extent because cash is still king and there's a cultural barrier there.
Some very interesting conversations there from that panel discussion. We're, of course, at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar. But it's not over yet. We'll have more when we return.
We are serious about the business of real estate, so catch Home Sweet Home Sundays at 4:30 p.m. or if you missed it, check our website at batvja.com.
In sharing my journey through business, I'm going to speak more about the softer skills and the things that occurred during my business development. I know I was introduced as the CEO of Honeybun. I'm also past president of the Jamaica Exporters Association, now merged with the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, and a director on the Jamaica Manufacturers Association board. So it was 1982 when Honeybun started, and I'm sure many of you have heard this story before, so I feel so lame to tell it again. But if you want a journey, it has to start at the beginning. So I had just been married. My husband and I met in Canada, and we returned to Jamaica to start our business. He was in pastry business at the time, and I was a teacher at Campion College. So having graduated with my degree in psychology and math, my husband swore that I was going to use the psychology on him and the math for my students. However, he bought a business, which was Honeybun. At the time, Honeybun was a retail bakery in Spanish Court and Premier Plaza, for those of you who can remember. And in our Chinese heritage, the wife always just give up what she's doing and go and work in the business. So I took the line and I went to work with my husband in the business. We soon decided that I would manage the business because he had other business endeavors that he was pursuing, more in line with real estate and distribution. I'm going to skip forward to the 90s. That was 1982. In the 90s, we were hit, like many companies, with the devaluation. And the only thing I can remember out of that nightmare was that the dollar went, or rent went from something like 12,000 to 90-odd thousand. So that was a big hit for us. And so what did we decide to do was we decided to go into wholesale baking instead. This was a turning point for me in business because it was at that time that I recognized that challenges were entirely opportunities. And I've just completely used chemistry to say C2O, challenges to opportunities. So every time I speak with a small business and there's a challenge, I'm always saying, what's the opportunity? So the opportunity for us was to borrow more money in a difficult time and convert the business to a wholesale business. So we engaged the same struggles as any SMEs that we have nowadays. You know, you don't have the skill sets for all the various functions. And it was a family business. So it was my husband and I at the time, but further on in the years to come, as the children graduated from university, they also came into the business. My daughter was a marketing manager, Crystal Chong. My son is now the chief operating officer. He manages production and the operations. And I have another son who studied business at UE, and he manages distribution. So I am totally blessed. If anyone was to ask me what was the single greatest thing we did to grow the business, it took me a while to recognize it because I didn't have a name for it when we were just a small business, but it has to be about governance. I know that in school, in high school, I don't know if there's anybody here who went to Peter and Paul, but I was actually called the class police, and that was not a nice name. So when I went into business, I was very focused on doing the right thing. And of course, I got a lot of flack for it because I remember in the days when you could go into customs and you have your customs friend and you pay for this and you get that. It was never me. I just couldn't do it. And all that time, I didn't know that what I was doing was I was building a culture of corporate governance. So when the junior market was provided, my auditor said to me at the time, Michelle, you need to go on the junior stock exchange. So people asked why. I asked him, I said, why should I? He said, because you're already doing everything a public company needs to do. So it's not going to be any problem for you. We were doing our financials. We were having quarterly reports. We were doing everything we should be doing. So that was a plus for us. There was almost no preparation. So having gone public, I have completely enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the privileges. It's a lot more work, but I really love work, and I really doing the right thing. And I engaged it. I've met so many people. Social Jan was our mentor, and it has been a fantastic journey for us. We've learned so much. We've grown so much. What I want to jump to is 2019. So we've been on the stock exchange since 2012. And where's my passion now? I have two children in the business, 37 and 34, managing the business. And I came to the board and I said, I've been the president at the JEA. I know the needs of these small businesses, and I also know my purpose. I discovered my purpose through coaching. So for the last year, I was being coached personally in business, in strategy, in leadership, family business, everything. So the Honeybun Foundation 2019 will be launched on Tuesday. And this is something that has been in my heart for over 3 years now. And I'm so looking forward to it. The foundation's mission is to create powerful, and I'm going to repeat the word, powerful business models for SMEs and the creative sector. And what this means is that we will not have a cohort of 10 and a cohort of 50 or be engaged in one-on-one. What it means is that we're going to sit down, the directors on the foundation, myself, and maybe some of you also here today will be asked to join, to look for solutions for SMEs, solutions that are going to be big. I'd had a look at this and I said to myself, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I giving up my time? The answer is about Jamaica. It's about Jamaica.
Stay informed on all the happenings at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar. We'll have much more when we return.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
I am Jackie Tyson, and you're watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
Most of you in here are accountants, right? So before, at the start of my journey, I really didn't like accountants. I just thought, and auditors, I really thought they were there to take my first chunk of profits that I earned, but that has since changed big time. So I love you guys, right? No? Yes, I love you guys more now because I see how important it is to have you guys as friends, close friends too, right? Over the years. So pretty much I'm like a regular Jamaican boy that passes common entrance for Kingston College, Fortis Forever, right? And on entering high school, I think that was just about when my parents separated, and of course the mom always end up with the kids, right? And being in entrepreneurship is in our culture, and our moms are great entrepreneurs. And recently I found out that Jamaica is ranked #1 in the Caribbean as a country where the citizens are involved in co-ownership of businesses, and in the top 10 in the world, which is good. So anyway, from that culture, and entering to high school, I saw how important it was with seeing my mom working very hard on her own to send me through school. But then I also saw my fellow students who were involved in business, their little hustle, so to speak, having more allowance than I did, right? So I started thinking through the whole 5 years at Kingston College, boy, this entrepreneurship thing is really cool, right? Because you get to have extra money. So I started to think about it and sow the seed that I have to do something. So my first thing was I had to get involved with the Junior Achievement Program in the schools that they had at the time, and which I did, and I became the vice president, which was good. So I dictate the ideas, and Boys Champs was coming up. So I was like, I need to solve a problem, and we need to be profitable, right? And I remember going to the Boys Champs, and one of the main things is that regular kids could not afford the jerseys. It was for the adults who were working, right? So I had to find a way to get a sponsor who would sponsor the cost for us to reduce the production cost for the jerseys. And, you know, to cut a long story short, it was very successful. It sell off, so to speak, Jamaican terms, right? Even though whilst going through Kingston College, we have very good mentorship programs and things. After leaving there, I had a little challenge there in the sense that I didn't have the right persons to really direct me as it relates to business. So I lose track pretty much and said, you know what happened? I have my car, and cable and wireless came about at the time, and I said, you know what, let's go into cable and wireless with a car. It's a good start, right? Until the pressures of corporate Jamaica start to hit you, where you have to get to work at 8 o'clock in the mornings to beat the traffic, right? And the expense of having a motor car, of course. And over time, you know what, I started to think, how can I use the opportunity at Cable and Wireless to help me with my entrepreneurship vision? So my take on it is, because at the time they had good educational grant. My take on it is that I have to be able to solve different problems, which means I have to be skilled in different areas, right? So I didn't focus on one thing too much to say straight telecom engineering. So as I studied my telecom engineering studies, at the time things were changing globally. You started to hear about software, virus softwares and so on. So immediately I got certified in ethical hacking to know about softwares to protect your computer system. So that was my mindset. And at the same time, the world had changed, because at that time you thought, in the 90s, you thought if you worked with JPS or Cable and Wireless, you could retire there, honestly. And you were comfortable until 2000 hit, and the whole thing of globalization and changes, and you're hearing like, whoa, redundancy, what's redundancy? So I was like, whoa. You get me? So you had to change your mindset. And immediately my entrepreneurship skills kicked in. And I was like, Dean, you really have to get back on track, because this is what you love. And when I see my fellow engineers that they got redundant from Cable and Wireless, I was like, whoa, with nothing much to do. I was like, what can you do? So when I look around me, I saw a lot of expats doing the work for Cable and Wireless, a lot of Chinese, or I think Japanese at the time. And I was like, but wait, we're trained, well-trained, and we can do the job, right? So I started to think about it, and the same time I started Connect Services Limited, which the name came about, say I wanted to bring things together, connect things together. And I didn't know much persons, I didn't have much connection, so to speak. So outside of maybe on the little party scenes and so on. So I did a business plan is very important, right? At that time, I didn't even know what a business plan was, but somehow I figured it out, did a business plan, and I went to Flo, who just came to Jamaica to do their expansion work, right? And honestly, I tell you, I just prepared, went to arrange for a meeting with a director there, and I called up some of my engineer friends and said, listen, I actually told them I had a contract before I even got the contract, right? But I told them that, listen guys, we're having some projects coming on stream, just be ready. And I went into the meeting with the director of Flow at the time, and I was like, I have a team, this is me, I have a team of engineers, and we are ready to build out your network and thing. And remember, I've never done this before on my own, right? And we had a good conversation. I was very positive. So, in life, you have to be very positive, very, very positive and things. So my positive energy was good. And you know what? They gave me the contract. And over time, they started giving me more jobs. And you know what? The money started to come in. And at the same time, I'm excited and you know what, without a mentor, so to speak, this thing of accountants to me was really important at the time. I remember the first links I get to an accountant, and they come in and said to do an audit, it's gonna be like $500 or something thousand. Out of my first year revenue of $1.1 million, I was like, Excel is gonna do it for me, right? but wait, so yeah, I was like, I'm the Excel king, I'm good. So the thing is, your business start to grow now, you feel good, and the telco come back to you and says, because this is how the telco work, they'll come back to you and says, we have the entire Kingston to build out. If you Want it is yours because you're doing good. If not, we can find somebody from overseas. I'm like, hell no, right? So immediately I went to the bank, and the bank was like, yeah. So I am there thinking that the bank, I'm sending a lot of money to the bank, so I'm a very good customer. And I pay my credit card bills. So listen, I need $10 million, I need it in 2 weeks' time. And all of a sudden, somebody come back to me, sir, where is your financial statement? I was like, whoa. So I do, of course, my little Excel thing, just no matter how put together with some purple color and thing and it night, right? They're not accepting it. So, I mean, you start to learn the importance of having accountants, oh man, auditors, yes, it rough. I tell you, writing the first check for the audited report, it was rough, I tell you. It traumatized me for the first week. But you know what? In terms of being an entrepreneur, as was said before, that you have to love Jamaica. So I love Jamaica, and I always believe that we have to help each other, right? In terms of success. And one of the things I look at is how can I create more jobs for young folks that does not have the opportunity, right? And what we have been doing over the years is we have been working with art and even the high schools and even some university students, because you don't have specific telecom related courses that give you the direct hands-on to hit the real world to set up a network for you guys island-wide. You don't have it. So you have the theoretical knowledge, but the hands-on experience is not there. So I started like a charity, Connecting Minds, which pretty much we bring high school students in maybe 20 each year. We expose them to like 20 different career choices, give them hands-on, and where they can start to learn about new technologies and what is out there. And it will help them in terms of their decision-making process. And that's what we try to do. Things have changed over time. It's not now about, boy, you love doing what you're doing. That's just a part of it. It's like a puzzle where you have to put things together. So, you have to have good accountants. You have to know what your bank, after a while, depends on the nature of the business that you're in. Capital is very important. Over time, I learned from my accountant that it's very important to know what the banks want. Even though, you try to get over this being traumatized by paying your accountant that big figure each year. So to help me with that, I break it down per month and divide it up, so I have them coming each month. So at least mentally I'm paying them less, right? Each month. But it works for me. And I'll put this out to you, to the accountants out there and auditors out there. Seminars like this, it's very important for medium-sized businesses and small businesses, because sometimes persons don't know how important you guys are, and you have to reach out to persons and invite them here, which is very good.
I am Tamara McHale. Keep watching Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Hi, it's Novia MacDonald-White, Senior Associate Editor at the Jamaica Observer. And guess what? You are watching Business Access Television.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access
TV.
Serious. Serious about business.
Business Access TV comes to you from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar under the theme Achieving Growth, Sustaining Viability. I am Tamar McHale with part 2 of the highlights, starting with a presentation on global turmoil and its implications to Jamaica.
So I'm sure we've all seen in the news what's been going on, the fears of the trade war, global crisis, the world is coming to an end. Trump basically controlling everything. Those fears have been widespread and right across the globe. The constant trade war between the US and China, even the Chinese, their headlines, you all see it, are also very concerned about this. Brexit, another huge issue that has been in the news, another huge issue that is affecting global trade and affecting the economies of the world. Trump looking closer at the trade war between US and China. Trump has accused China of unfair trading practices and intellectual property theft. The Chinese believe that the US want to undermine their country's rise, and this has basically led to an economic fallout which has vexed the global markets. Over the past year, the US has imposed over $360 billion worth of tariffs on the Chinese government. The Chinese has retaliated with $110 billion worth of tariffs on US products. Washington has delivered 3 rounds of tariffs this year, and the 4th one was in September of this year. The last round was on meat and musical instruments, and they put a 15% duty on Chinese meat and musical instruments coming into the US. Beijing has hit back with 5% to 25% tariffs on US goods. The last tariff was a 5% levy on US crude oil, the first time fuel has ever been hit in this trade battle, which is a huge, huge thing. And we're feeling it in the oil prices. The oil prices have come off considerably since this tariff has been in. Both sides are basically threatening to take action against one another. Washington has further threatened another set of tariffs for December of this year. China has also planned to hit back with tariffs on 3,000 more products for the US by the end of this year. If nothing is interrupted, this process will reverse 40 years of increased trade and financial and economic integration between China and the US. Other nation companies won't follow the Americans and lead, and they are benefiting from this. So if you look at this, China has felt the pinch with $35 billion of export losses to the US since the beginning of this year, and other countries are benefiting. So Taiwan has been the biggest beneficiary of this. $4.2 billion in the first half of 2019. Trade between the US and Taiwan has grown. Mexico has grown by an additional $3.5 billion of trade between Mexico and the US. EU, Vietnam, other big benefiters of what's happening in the trade war between the US and China. Korea, Canada have also benefited, ranging between $0.9 and $1.5 billion of trade. The US companies have also benefited. They have picked up the slack, and they have also, rather than exporting jobs to China and importing goods from China, they have kept $14 billion worth of exports and goods produced in the US by producing it in the US rather than in China. So we're seeing that net there, what Trump is doing is benefiting the US, is hurting China, and the rest of the world is benefiting. This is where Jamaica, the opportunity for Jamaica here comes in. The problem is that we've killed our manufacturing sector, and we can't pick up the slack like a Taiwan or a Mexico or the EU right off the bat. But there's a huge opportunity here for us to get in the middle of this China-US trade war and benefit. These are the huge headwinds that are ahead of us in terms of trade and how this will affect us in the region as well as the rest of the world. So You know, these issues are not new. They have been around for 2 years. So why all of a sudden are people saying that we're near recession? Well, on March 22nd of this year, the US Treasury curve inverted. What does that mean? That means that long-term rates in the US fell below the short-term rates in the US. It meant that persons were beginning to worry. It meant that those persons that were in stocks and other long-term assets began to sell those assets and went to the safety of treasuries. Once you move to treasuries, the yields fall, the yield curve inverts. What does that mean for recession? Well, since 1975, every recession in the US has been preceded by an inversion of the yield curve. So since 1975, and you'll see it from the chart, so the global financial crisis was preceded by the yield curve inverting. The dot-com bust in early 2000, again, the same with the oil price shock in the 90s, was all preceded by an inversion of the yield curve. And this happened on March 22nd of this year. Typically, the recession usually follows an inversion by 6 to 2 years. So it's not an immediate thing. So this is what has been causing a lot of panic. 6 months to 2 years. Right. So this is what happened in the US and has been causing a lot of panic. Whether it's self-fulfilling or not, you know, it is a cause for concern given our reliance on the US and our reliance globally on trade. So again, coming out of the inversion of the yield curve and coming out of the trade wars, IMF reduced its target for GDP growth from 3.5% to 3.3% for this year on a global basis. You'll see in 2009 where we had the recession. This is a big thing because this is the lowest level of growth that's predicted by the IMF since the 2009 crash. Again, this shows the global distribution of GDP across the globe. The US and China contribute 40% of GDP to the globe. If US and China continue this trade war and production starts to fall in these two territories, you're looking at our global issues throughout the globe. If you add in the rest of Asia and you add in what's happening in Europe and the EU into that, you're looking at a 75% drop, a 75% GDP contribution. Those countries a fall in their production in the coming months. So how does that affect us here in Jamaica? Well, we need to look back at what happened at 2008 and when we had the big financial crisis of 2008 and the last time that Jamaica was in recession. You'll see that was a major financial crisis. So the global markets had financial headwinds. There was cheap credit and loose lending terms internationally. Subprime mortgages was the thing of the day. There had a huge credit crunch. The US economy slowed. That spread right across the globe, and world economy prices were plummeting. So the Fed, in response to that, they dropped rates, had the longest period of expansionary policies throughout the US with interest rates at the lowest they've been for the longest period in US history. Stock market had its worst performance during that period and has recovered considerably since. For Jamaica, back then, we were in a much worse position. So we had an exchange rate that was galloping. I mean, somebody might argue that it's galloping today. I hear we're selling at 143.20 today. Yeah, it's crazy. Sorry. But we had a spiraling fiscal deficit, we had unsustained debt levels, rising interest rates, bond prices were under pressure, with negative economic growth, and our rating was under huge pressure. Since then, Jamaica has really turned around following two successful public debt exchanges, JDX and NDX. Our interest costs are rock bottom now. Our maturity profile on government debt has been extended. We've had 2 successful IMF programs. Government of Jamaica is very proactive in their liability management, improved economic stability, 18 consecutive quarters of growth, albeit very low, and an upgrade in the country's credit rating. Our financial entities are much better regulated. Consumer spending is much more moderate. Real estate prices have been stable, and financial entities are much better capitalized.
Stay with us. We hear more from Mr. Johan Heaven when we return.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
So what will a slowdown in the world economy look like for Jamaica? We're going to take it on a industry by industry basis. So in terms of tourism, tourism is now 9% of our GDP, still a considerable portion of our GDP. Global slowdown obviously will affect our tourist arrivals and affect our GDP growth. It's critical that we need to diversify our tourism product. We need to tap into other markets. We need to not depend only on the US market. And I see, the minister is doing that. Tourist board is doing that. We're doing a good job, but we still need to tap into other markets. We need to be in China, which is the largest economy in the world. We need to have Chinese come in here. Chinese don't like sand and sea. They like the cultural experience. They're here. Yeah, we need more though. We need, yeah. Remittances, again, a huge contributor to GDP, 16.5% remittances. If there's a slowdown in the US, we're going to see lower levels of remittances coming into Jamaica. Bauxite, we know, is already under pressure. Alpart and Gisco plant have closed. Again, if commodity prices fall, we will see a further fall off in bauxite. Foreign direct investment as well, we've been doing very well. Again, we will see lower levels of FDI and lower levels of foreign exchange coming into the country. This will put further pressure on the foreign exchange rate. Our NIR, however, has been very stable and at the highest level it has been forever. The governor does not like to use the NIR to stabilize the dollar though, but if there is significant pressure on the dollar, he will have to use the NIR to stabilize the dollar and to bring the US into the market. Unemployment at its lowest level, near 6%. BPO sector growing, manufacturing sector growing, but if tourism and other sectors come under pressure, we could see unemployment coming under pressure. And then this is really the most concerning thing for me. It is our local asset prices, and because interest rates are at all-time lows, many of the fund managers have been finding it difficult to find assets to invest in. So you see a lot of the money moving towards real estate, money moving towards the stock market, money moving to other fixed income instruments, and I believe that a lot of those assets are overpriced right now, given the relatively low level of interest rates. Yesterday, the BOJ CD came in at 0.99%, below 1%, below where the US Treasury raises funds at. So our local government is raising money cheaper than the US government. That's because our local institutions don't have anything to do with the funds, and so they're they're running after assets that are coming out. Again, the stock market, which has been very well, 2 years we've been the best performing stock market. We have to be very careful with the asset prices and how far they're going, because right now, the levels that they're trading at in the high 20s, when you look at the price to earnings ratio, my opinion, it's high, and we have to be very careful with where we are right now. Real estate is the new thing. A lot of developments going on, which is great, but we have to be careful of the real estate prices and where they're going. We don't want to end up in a case where we have a stock market bubble or a real estate bubble, and then when the bubble bursts, we all know what happens.
Coming after Johan, the topic is very timely, disasters. And I'm happy to be sharing the panel with Bruce, because the truth is that, thank you, the truth is that business continuity, not just for business, but for government, is key. And that business continuity speaks to recovery planning, which is absolutely important as we try to grapple with these issues. We are reminded often, right here in Jamaica, throughout the Caribbean, close to us, the greatest difficulty is getting back up and running. And the way to minimize that challenge is to begin that planning long before an event occurs. We've been trying very much with the government of Jamaica. Regrettably, we have not made the kind of progress we would have liked, because we saw what happened after Hurricane Ivan, and we see it each time. You shoot from the hip, you set up an organization, try to get it going. So business continuity applies just to business, but very importantly to the national construct. We're living with a new normal. Every day we hear about disasters all around the world. There are climate-triggered disasters, there are geophysical disasters, and there are human-induced disasters. Multi-hazard disasters coming out of one of the UN global frameworks, what we call the Sendai framework, they're tracking these disasters. And over the last 10 years, well, maybe 1997 to 2017, floods accounted for the greatest impact, and the disasters stemming from natural hazards caused the greatest disruption in terms of displacement of people and so on. So we're talking about a lot of people. What do we have in the Caribbean? We have a situation where, just coming very close, 2 years ago, we had 2 Category 5 hurricanes coming within 2 weeks of each other, devastating our sister territories, many of which are still crawling to try to get back up and running. We had Dorian, which stalled over the Bahamas for several days. We have just never seen that. So not only was it intense, but it sat there. And the implications are very much there. So we ask ourselves, are these processes natural? And we have global systems that underlie natural processes. This is the reality. And very often, however, the response is influenced by the human factor. Natural systems, of course, include where we are. So we are imbued, we're located in the tropical Caribbean. That tells us some things. Plate tectonics, in terms of our geology, our geophysical construct, that makes us prone to earthquakes, the movement of these plates. We have atmospheric oceanic circulation, and then global warming and climate change, which is the central consideration. If you think Brexit is bad, and you think US-China trade war is bad, climate change is underpinning everything. So the impact of the climate, this climate reality, is very far-reaching. We don't have time to go into all of it. However, we heard about our tourism, our dependence, agriculture, manufacturing, housing, settlements, health, everything with which we are concerned in terms of how we make a living, how we generate our businesses, and there is no one in this room who is immune from the impact. And therefore, what we have to focus on, which is what is being pushed globally, is climate action. How do we build resilience? So, the second thing that we have to focus on is disaster risk reduction, which means that we have to understand the science of the hazard. We have to assess our exposure. Nobody's going to be expected to understand how the hazards are generated, but somebody has to do it. So everything has to be underpinned by the science. How exposed are we? And then what are our vulnerabilities? How is it likely to impact? Are the vulnerabilities internal to our companies, to our communities, to our homes, or are they external? For example, we had a very serious case of flooding. Some of you might remember it. It's a few years ago. Major rainfall event. Wasn't a hurricane or anything. The Marcus Garvey flooding that wiped out coffee board, wiped out a lot of that coffee. That was a vulnerability that living next to the gully, which was not properly cleared, and also because we had construction that blocked some of the natural drainage. Those are external vulnerabilities that affect and have a major impact. And regrettably, again, we don't often measure the full cost of this impact, which is where our accounting profession and financial professionals come in. We need to manage, as we said before, during and after the event, because we have to prepare ourselves not only to see what's coming down the pike, but very importantly, to be able to get back up and running. Disasters are therefore considered failed development. And when we're dealing with natural disasters, as the term is used, disasters that are caused by natural events, it usually is a reflection of what we have failed to do in terms of our infrastructure, what we have failed to do in terms of our planning, and what we have failed to do in terms of ensuring that we minimize loss.
Don't go anywhere. More from the ICAJ Business Seminar when we return.
Dodgen Global offers a CPA scholarship program to team members who join our team. A career in accountancy at Dodgen Global is a great choice and can offer you excellent job prospects. We believe that an accounting education is the greatest gift you can give yourself or anyone else. Few gifts make as significant an impact as the gift of an accountancy education with a job. It's a contribution that lasts a lifetime in the form of learning, opportunity, and success. Join our team and get the opportunity to be part of our CPA scholarship program. This scholarships awards program will be administered by the HR department of Dodgen Global. Requirement: first degree in accounting. Employed at Dodgen Global. Willing to pursue the CPA examination. Here's how to apply. Submit application to Staff Accountant, Dodgen Global. Email sa@dodgen.com.
So we do not have generally integrated planning. We have informal, unstructured development, sometimes implicitly encouraged. And then we have structured developments. I think many of us are investors. We go for short-term financial interest, financial gain, without looking at the long term. However, we cannot really continue to do that because we pay a price. And sometimes the price may not be in our lifetime. You know, we take the case of Caribbean Terrace, which is one that is used all the time. 1994, Ivan wiped away that. Those houses should never have been built there, okay? But they were built. Persons who purchased them didn't have a clue, and you pay that price. We talked about the interconnectivity in terms of globalization and so on, and the fact that there is a cascading effect. So we moved now to this planet, this environment, since that's the third element. Very often we view this environment in terms of just getting a permit for development. So we have to do environmental assessments. We have adversarial positioning. There's always quarreling. However, it's a multifaceted and complex topic, but importantly, it's a development issue, it's a business issue, and it is closely intertwined with economics, with finance, with strategy and people. It's not solely an issue of protecting natural resources. It's not just about trees, hugging trees at all. It goes way beyond that. So we know we have natural systems. Very importantly, we have built systems. And we tend to spend less time, less focus on how those built systems are integrated with the natural. It's the environment, the planet, it's our life support system. You can't live without clean air, you can't live without water. And their resources, they are economic assets, that's what we build on. And again, one of the things we pay less attention to, and increasingly we have to, is health. That chikungunya outbreak, the dengue, the mosquito breeding, all of that related to warming temperatures, climate change, and it is going to get worse.
My focus will be on the man-made disasters affecting businesses that are unique to businesses. So I've subtitled my presentation, Preparing and Recovering from Unique Disaster Situations. And when I use the word disaster in this context, I mean just about anything that could bring your business to a grinding halt. I had a session with one of my clients, I think earlier this week, pray for me, and one of the things, the thing that we were trying to do, we were trying to identify those events that, and we use this word, that could cripple the organization. Historically, when we think of a disrupting event to a business, our minds tend to think about the fire in the computer room or some physical thing that's disrupting our operations. And obviously, that is part of the discussion. And by the way, many businesses still struggle to recover from those unique physical disruptions. And our moderator spoke to that earlier. So when I was thinking about the presentation, I thought to myself that I'd try and give a broader methodology around how to identify these unique disrupting events with a view of making sure that if they happen, you can still continue your business. I've pretty much spoken about this in my opening remarks. Yes, natural disasters, they're everywhere, they affect our region. And this is just to repeat my opening comments. We will have less empathy. Your stakeholders will be less understanding if you are an event that is unique to you while all your stakeholders are up and running. Ironically though, if there was, say, a hurricane, and because of poor disaster preparation, you took longer to restore your business than the competitors, then you're going to find yourself in a unique situation. And so this speaks to the importance of disaster preparation. I'm not really focusing on that. So let's look at some common, unique disasters affecting some of the key business processes that we have. So the real value to me of this presentation, and what I want you to take away, is how to find these non-traditional type things. You know, I cannot keep repeating that we tend to think of the fire and the electrical failure and stuff like that. Technology failures, British Airways had an embarrassing situation. Didn't actually cripple them from an operational perspective, but it created significant adverse impact on their reputation. They had a power surge that brought down their check-in system, and their baggage claim system, the average passenger wasn't able to get a flight until 3 days later. $122 million in hard costs, and the reputational damage was immense. Didn't cripple them in that sense, but certainly went beyond the realm of their risk appetite, I'm sure. Cyber attacks, we don't need to talk about that one too much. Equifax had an issue that's well documented. And here's another one of those unique things that I'm talking about that we would do well. I'm going to end the presentation by showing you a quick methodology as to how to find these non-traditional type things. Segregation of duties. Would you have thought that not properly segregating duties in your company could literally cause the company to die? You've thought about it, right? So Barings Bank, one of the reasons why Barings Bank, Nick Leeson, this is well documented. He was a trader, and he had access apparently to trading and settling and doing stuff that was incompatible for one person to do. And so the obvious question is, what are the segregation of duties issues, believe it or not, that could be fatal to your organization? Key third parties. The world is so interconnected today that we are heavily dependent on major third parties to deliver significant aspects of our businesses. So much so that there's a separate standard to dealing with giving assurance for how third parties are managing your business. Does the third parties that you work with, do you know if they have a business continuity plan? Could they export a disaster to your business? And the list could go on. Compliance issues. If you're regulated and you don't have certain types of persons on staff who have the required approvals or certifications from the regulator, they could shut you down. The first thing is basically to do risk assessment. And really what that is to try and identify what these things are. In PwC, we have a standard list of known threats with some leading questions. And it might seem kind of banal, but let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about here. So this is a very simple questionnaire surrounding electrical power risk, right? So I'm talking about doing a risk assessment. So you have electrical, water, fire. Who is your neighbor? The business next door to you. We had a client where there was a big cylinder that was right next door to the boardroom, because their neighbor was a restaurant that emerged overnight. Think of your impact financially. How much would you lose? Operationally, would they shut us down? Or reputation, would it be at stake? Could this cause an environmental issue? So what are the risks? There are some standard risks that have to do with your buildings. But the real value comes when you have, say, all your executives in a room, and you look at all your key objectives, and you ask each other or challenge each other to answer the question, if we were not able to get all of our tellers certified or investment managers certified, what would be the impact? So you basically do an impact likelihood assessment of all your risks that you have identified. And at the end of it, you should come up with something like this, which is known as a heat map. So having done the identification of the risks, you ask yourself on a scale of, say, 1 to 4, if this risk were to happen, what would be the impact? And then, what would be the likelihood of this risk happening to us? So in this case, if we had an air quality issue, the impact on a scale of 1 to 4 is 4. This is only for illustrative purposes. And in this entity, they say it is very likely that we would have it. And so this risk ends up in the top right-hand corner. If you want to have your viable businesses and to achieve growth, which is the broader theme of this conference, every company represented in this room, you should ensure that you have a heat map like this, and any risk that's in the top right-hand corner, you need to take some action. So if you realize that you don't have a backup site to your primary computer room, and you ask your IT persons and they tell you it's $1 million to put it in, and those are expensive treatments, it's better to spend the $1 million and save the business and your reputation, all right?
When we return, we hear from Anna K. Jones's presentation on human disaster versus natural disaster, a youth's perspective.
Oh, yeah. design is not only how things look, but also how well they work. The GLC, more than meets the eye.
I was asked to give the youth perspective, as the moderator said. So what qualifies me to do such? First of all, I am a youth. Yes. And I am passionate about the environment. As she said, that is why I decided to pursue a minor in energy and environmental physics. We want to be able to develop technologies that will help sustain our future. So this is the first question that some people still have an issue with. Is climate change real? And I would answer with a very deflated, yes, yes it is. It's very exhausting to think that this is something that we still have to be wondering about and explaining to people that people don't understand. Because climate change happens without us. You know, the Earth has been through ice ages and so forth. It happens without us. Slightly more intelligent question would be, does human activity impact climate change? And the answer is again, yes it does. One of the first companies to do a comprehensive climate study was actually an oil company. And this was in like the 80s. And they found amongst themselves that yes, what we're doing is impacting the climate. And they didn't do anything about it. They didn't tell anyone. And now we have super hurricanes. So that's fun. So silly questions out of the way. Is it really that serious? Well, you tell me. Of course, we have hurricanes and droughts and wildfires. Those are things that happen with our environment. And then when we have those hurricanes and droughts and wildfires and other disasters, we have the loss of life, we have the displacement, we have the destruction of land, infrastructure, or food supply goes down, so we come down here. And then, of course, we have the human side of it, the burning of the Amazon rainforest that happened this year. Those were man-made and intentional for cattle breeding purposes. Constant fossil fuel burning, soil erosion due to improper farming practices. And then come here again, and you see a lot of the times these things, these human impacts, are sort of excused because of these issues that we're having. But then we come back here and we say that, well, wait, these things that we're doing impact up here. They increase the intensity of these natural disasters. Imagine during Hurricane Dorian or after Hurricane Dorian, a lot of persons were not able to enter the US. I can't say for sure why that is, but we see a lot of issues like that. Amazon rainforest persons were also using it as an excuse to damage indigenous people living in the forest. Native Americans in the US often have to deal with oil pipelines being run through their reservations, and then oil spills that spill into their water supply. And classism. It's very punishing to be poor, because you're just trying to live paycheck to paycheck, and somebody's there saying, just buy one less latte a day. You are being blamed. The lower class is often blamed for impacting the environment with their practices. So, for example, who has ever had somebody say, you know, just don't eat meat? It's because you're eating meat why the cattle farming and the methane from the cows and all those things, and it suddenly becomes your fault when you're just trying to live your life. And this is something else. So this is one that I've thought of very recently. For a lot of us, the plastic straw ban was very inconvenient, but mildly so. You know, you have to drink, you drink faster, or you don't use a straw, or maybe you get a trendy metal straw. We don't think about persons, for example, with neurological challenges, who cannot manipulate those metal straws and plastic straws, the paper straws and bamboo straws. The plastic straws were very convenient for them. A new one that I saw, who in here has asthma? I don't mean to expose anybody's business, but if anybody in here has asthma, they're looking at you now, because they're saying that your asthma pumps are releasing methane, and so that is impacting the climate. And you're just trying to breathe. Why are they coming for you? You're just trying to breathe. And so all these things come together, and it is that serious. You have these discrimination against these marginalized people who are just trying to exist. So what is really going on here? This is a strong word. I don't hope nobody feels offended by it since it's a business conference, but really and truly, you have corporations, especially particularly these massive corporations that really don't care about who they hurt, who they impact, what oil spills where. Their only concern is that the oil is spilled and they cannot sell it. So then, the government, a lot of global governments allow for these type of these pollutions to be occurring because they're getting, a little money on the side. So they turn a blind eye and they don't say anything. And also, you have a lot of these corporations and the government putting the bulk of the responsibility on the citizens, when really and truly, they're not the majority. You're fixing a symptom of a problem, and you're not going to the root, and you're just ignoring the root completely. Citizens, global citizens, residential pollution only accounts for about 12%, where everything else is, company-based, corporation-based. We are inheriting a planet that will not be able to sustain. I wanted to highlight some of the key youth players here. If anybody follows American politics, this is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's daughter. She is very strong in the climate protests in the US. I wanted to highlight John Paul Hussein, particularly from India, because this week India had to announce a public health emergency because their air quality pollution was literally, and I do mean literally, off the charts. Their meters capped out, could not record any higher. It was 20 times what is considered a safe amount of pollution. 20 times that. So yeah. And Greta Thunberg is very famous. She's kind of the face of this whole Fridays for Future protest. She's pretty much one of the founders for it. She has Asperger's, which is a disorder on the autism spectrum. She's a brilliant young woman, and she practices what she preaches. Trust me, reusable packages. She takes the boats instead of the planes. She takes trains instead of cars. She practices what she preaches. She means it. So what can be done? What do we expect as youth from you? We're looking for our governments to step up. We want to change the mindset. We don't want the apathy. We want people to see that this is a serious problem. It's not just 30 years down the line or 40 years down the line when, some of the older folks will be dead. And we're just gonna have to deal with it. We're just gonna have to deal with it. It's gonna be too late by then. People need to understand that now. And then we need to shift the focus from the everyday citizen. Of course, I don't want anybody to say that I'm saying that the citizens are not at fault at all. I'm hoping nobody in here is a litterer. Nobody's throwing the garbage out the car into the gully or anywhere else. But really and truly, we are not the main source. We're persons living our daily lives while big companies are getting away with murder. Literally, almost. Then we need to continue making our laws. It is hard, change is hard. However, it is necessary. We have to protect our natural resources, and we want to be able to move towards renewable energy. We want to be able to make that shift so that is one less thing to be worrying about. And then, of course, it doesn't make sense to have the laws if you don't enforce them. We want to have our government enforce the laws for the small citizens as well as for the big companies. We have to, and then of course, we have to do our disaster planning because we cannot afford to let a hurricane, category 5 hurricane, even brush us in Jamaica. The Bahamas, you know the Bahamas had internet throughout all of that. If we even got the tailwind, our internet would have been knocked out. The JPS would have shut down.
Internal audit. Internal audit service is vital when organizations aim to achieve reliable financial reports and regulatory compliance, navigating risks, streamlining operations, and promoting stakeholder confidence. The benefits of a high-quality internal audit are limitless, especially when you secure yours from a firm with deep industry experience, exposure to hundreds of organizations, dedicated professionals, and proven methodologies. Whether you're looking to establish an internal audit function, attain or maintain compliance with various regulations, mitigate your risk of fraud, or gain an overall assessment of your internal controls, you can count on Dodge & Global for reliable and timely business solutions. We've helped organizations nationwide and across industries to establish internal control structures, create an internal audit function, or improve an existing one, and maintain regulatory compliance. We provide ongoing education as regulations and public perceptions change. We are trusted advisors for management and boards. External auditors can be confident in our work and its results. Let Dodge & Global be a turnkey solution for your organization. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
Thanks for staying with us for part 2 of Business Access TV's coverage of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica Business Seminar. We now turn over to the presentations of the challenges with meeting accounting standards and regulatory requirements.
All right, so I've been asked to speak about financial reporting challenges that are associated with entities being on exchanges, particularly Jamaica Stock Exchange. So the JSC has been getting a lot of attention in recent times based on the organization, the performance of our stock market, and also the fact that from a financial reporting perspective, I think the listed entities have kept a clean sheet. And we have been able to avoid many of the financial reporting scandals that we see emerging globally. But being on an exchange takes you into what I call the public accountability space. And you are inviting others to invest in your entity, others who are dependent on the performance of your entity to maintain and create value. So oftentimes when you have these IPOs, and an IPO can be either debt or equity, you find that you have individuals who are investing, persons who have foregone lattes to buy stocks. Sorry, Johan. Johan and I are very good friends, by the way. You have pension funds who are investing in these IPOs, and I audit some pension funds, and I find pension funds have heavy stakes in a lot of these IPOs, and each of us knows the importance of pension funds to long-term savings and just to the general run of the economy. So you're in public accountability space, your responsibility, your stakeholder group has expanded tremendously. You have debt holders, equity holders, you have regulators who are meant to ensure that you operate in a manner that's consistent with best practice. You have the analysts who are tearing apart your performance and your results. And you also now have the attention of the global markets. People are watching the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So there is a picture of the Jamaica flag hanging outside the, I think it's the New York Stock Exchange, and it has gotten great publicity. There is an interview of Marlin Street Forest in the American media. So we are on the map. Once you get into that public accountability space, however, there are certain obligations that attend to you. And the main ones really are ensuring that you have a talent pool that allows you to understand, interpret, and apply all the financial reporting standards. These standards are extremely complex, as the International Accounting Standards Board tries to fine-tune the accounting standards. You find that these standards are changing as the IASB and the FASB, which does the US GAAP promulgation, as they try to harmonize. You find that you have changes that are coming consistently, and these changes are complex. So in terms of your talent pool, you have to ensure that you have individuals who have the time, the agility, the intellectual capital, the access to technology that allows them to interact with these standards. And oftentimes what you find is that these are the same individuals who are doing the day-to-day transaction processing and financial reporting. So one of the challenges that entities will face, and a big one now, is with the insurance accounting standard, is trying to come to terms with the new standards while continuing to meet existing shareholder and stakeholder financial reporting requirements. And that's a huge challenge. But we have to appreciate that we are a proud nation. We like to see ourselves on the international stage. We like to compare ourselves to the larger, more profitable, more developed nations. And if we are to do that, then our financial reporting has to be consistent with theirs. We have to be able to compare our results with their results in a manner that allows for real analyses, comparison, and differentiation. And we have many entities in Jamaica as well that have huge ambitions, and there are entities that have publicly explored the option of listing on exchanges globally. And if we are to do that, then we have to have the appropriate financial reporting mechanisms.
My presentation here today is really not to go into the rules or anything like that. I don't want to bore you, but I want to speak from a practical standpoint, because I do get the calls from listed companies in terms of, saying that every day there is a new rule being developed. The stock exchange is moving like they're a New York Stock Exchange, right? We can't manage this. So I'm here to speak to you in terms of the challenges that listed companies have shared with the stock exchange in terms of, what their experience has been, right? And we do listen to these concerns and look at ways to address them if we can, right? So before going into the challenges, I want to just give you a breakdown of the regulatory environment for listed companies. And I should have asked, you guys know what ongoing requirements is speaking to, right? All right, let me just explain quickly. So as Garfield stated here, you have the first stage where the companies come to market, and they come to market usually through a prospectus offering. Now that's what you call your initial listing requirements, or satisfying initial listing requirements. When you're now on the stock exchange, you would be required to maintain that listing that you got to comply with the rules and standards of the market. So that is what we call ongoing requirements, right? And that is where you find that most of the challenges exist. So the regulatory environment, of course, I'm here, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, as a listed company, you have to report to the stock exchange. But how many persons know that as an issuer, you also have to report to the Financial Services Commission? They are the ultimate regulator of the securities market, right? So essentially, everything that you send to the stock exchange, or everything that a listed company send to the stock exchange, they are required to also send such information to the Financial Services Commission, given the provisions in the Securities Act. Of course, listed companies are required to report to shareholders because you need the information to know what is going on in the company. You need to know, should I continue to hold this stock? Should I sell? Or should I buy stocks in another company, right? And the only way you can get that is through the communication channels that the listed company uses to communicate to you as shareholders and prospective investors. And of course, you know, we can't leave these persons out. You have the market observers, financial analysts, and I stated prospective investors because, you know, sometimes they're even, you know, they are not so reserved with their comments, you know. So where you file a financial statement and it's deficient, you know, an analyst would pick it up and say, what is this? How can the board of this company release such information? How can the stock exchange allow this to go through? So, you know, it is necessary, and that's how a market should really function.
We take our final break from the ICAJ Business Seminar, but we may have saved the best for last. Stay with us.
There are a lot of local companies who are really doing exceptionally well at the whole CSR initiatives and are doing good for Jamaica and elsewhere. And so, of course, with Cinco, everybody knows about their recycling program, which is growing and has, because of their initiative in schools, it means that they're encouraging young people to be environmentally conscious and aware. And they've also gotten big corporates involved as well. You almost are forced to embrace these kinds of initiatives because when they are making a choice in their spending dollar, they look at sustainable living brands, they look at companies that are purpose-driven, they look at companies that are giving back. So that's another good example of a local company who is really working the CSR program well. I would have to mention some of the work that the Grace Kennedy foundations are doing. So we have two foundations. We have the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, which started in the 1970s, and it's a very unique foundation because that foundation it was a staff initiative and continues to be. And it started in the 1970s coming out of employees noticing a great deal of turmoil in the communities surrounding our headquarters at 73 Harbor Street. And so they decided that they wanted to do something. They wanted to create positive initiatives that would assist these communities, and particularly young people. And so they went to the CEO at the time and said, we have an idea, we want to donate. And CEO Carlton Alexander said, sure, the company will, whatever you donate, the company will match it ×2. And that has continued. And so the foundation actually celebrated 40 years this year. And continues to do some really incredible work. So we have 6 homework centers. And what we realized, particularly starting in downtown, and now it has spread, we have in Majesty Gardens, we also have in De La Vega City, in Spanish Town, and we try to also place it close to where we operate. So we also have a homework center in Sav, where we make the hams.